Have you ever wondered what makes bodies tick? Are you creating the sexual reality you desire and require? Would you like to know more about what else is possible with bodies? What if your fantasies are not as strange as you thought they were? What if you could learn to be kinder to your body and kinder to others' bodies? Would you like to create confidence in the bedroom and beyond? How has your sex life or lack of it affected other areas of your life? Have you lost your mojo and wondered where to find it? Everyone has the potency to be a sexual superhero. Get ready to listen, sense, and play with the sexualness that is you. Now, here is the host of The Pleasure Zone, Body Whisperer, Milica Jelenic.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Pleasure Zone. I'm so thrilled to have all of you on tonight with us. And you know what? We're just going to have a really crazy, awesome show because that's what we do here on The Pleasure Zone because we can. So I don't know if you guys are aware of this or if you're not aware of it and whatever. We are having a guest on tonight called JP Sears, and I am so thrilled to have him on. I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen me actually get like nervous ever and excited, like to the point where my body is like, wah. That's what's going on, just so you guys are aware. So if you guys are feeling excited and nervous, you might be feeling my excited and nervous. I might be feeling your excited and nervous because it's all exciting. It's very exciting. I'm so used to I've actually rarely interviewed people that I don't know really well. So this is very fun for me to interview JP Sears, who I only know really from YouTube, and occasional emails back and forth about being on this show. So for those of you who don't know JP, or if you do know him, you might have seen him on YouTube, and you might think, oh, he's that crazy, wacky character guy who does all those like fabulously funny comedic videos about spirituality that also have like a super great information in them as well. And you might know him from that, but what you might not know is that he's actually also super talented as a personal empowerment coach. Yeah, he actually does stuff that can change people's lives and worlds. So how lucky are we to have him on, contributing to everybody and everything in the entire universe listening tonight. So I want to welcome you, JP, with all my heart. I'm so glad to have you on tonight.
Well, I'm really looking forward to hearing about this JP Sears guy you're talking about. He sounds amazing.
Right.
So I'm sure he's very pleased to be on with you tonight.
Awesome. I also hear this show is sponsored by his beautiful blue eyes, so I'm very excited about that.
I think his beautiful blue eyes are happy to contribute to the livelihood of the show. And speaking of him, apparently in the third person, it feels pretty good, actually. I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate your nerves, your excitement. And I think that actually the intro, just listening to the intro of this show, already initiated a redistribution of blood flow in my body. So I'm
awesome.
Very intrigued with what's happening right now.
I really love that because I do know that I have these like crazy capacities sometimes with words that can redirect the blood flow to different parts of the bodies, and I like to think that's one of my like superhero talents that I've got. So awesome! I'm so glad it's working on you. I feel honored. That's awesome.
Yeah, the pleasure is mutual.
So it's very like I personally love talking about bodies, sex, and fun. It's, call me crazy. I'm on this planet. I've got this body that loves to be touched. So what is it about this show when I said, hey, JP, got this crazy idea. I'd love to have you on The Pleasure Zone show. What made you go, hey, that sounds like a fabulous idea?
Yeah, my assistant made me do it. I refused, and she said, no, JP, you should go on. So aside from that, I'm good, and of course, I'm actually intrigued with the inherent shame that lots of us, at least maybe at the very least, all of us have a part that has some degree of shame about this incredibly natural thing called our sexuality and pleasure in sexuality and pleasure in touch and sensations that may or may not be directly labeled sexuality. So I personally think it's an area of my life that one, I've worked on a lot, and two, I probably have miles and miles yet to go on my journey. And it's something that I see it affects a lot of people's lives, typically in ways of constriction when it's kind of like this inherent shame and lack of permission to be a sexual being is kind of imposed upon oneself.
Yeah, shame is the big one. We have talked about that a lot on this show before. I experience that a lot in my life, and on occasion still that shows up. So for me, like, sex is a great adventure of always learning and exploring, and like to consider myself a great student of sexuality, sex, and sexual energy, and all things related to the body. So I'm glad that your intrigue about even how we could possibly have shame about something that could be so natural that animals do it. Even though plants are doing asexual reproduction, plants are doing it. So what is it that you're aware of that might be one of the things that starts to create that shame for people, that starts the contraction and the constriction in their lives? Like, what are some things you have come across either in your life or with your coaching with people?
Yeah, starting from sort of the big picture generalities, I think shame that comes from active sources and also passive sources as well. And the active shame about sexuality can be easier to identify. We maybe experienced an older sibling or someone making fun of us when we were naked, and we start to own shame about that. Or we might overhear adults use demeaning language. Oh, look at that slut. You said in a condescending way, and so we start to experience, oh my gosh, there's this is bad stuff. And then depending on what kind of religious experience we may or may not have, I know I was raised pretend Catholic. My family pretended to be Catholic when my grandparents were around. But nonetheless, I was still swimming in a lot of the Catholic beliefs where there was this very confusing active narrative about sex, like it's a bad thing. And it's like, what the hell would God make us that way? So nonetheless, like active shame, there's a lot of it there. And of course, like traumas and wounding through sexual violations is a huge thing. And then I think the more elusive part is passive shame. Along with the Catholic part, sex in my childhood was never talked about. And the fact that it was never talked about made it a secretive thing, which is very, very, very passively shaming, very invalidating about sexuality. And of course, that meant as I was, a early teenager, growing into more awareness of my sexual nature as my hormones change and I start to have desires and arousals and like things I don't understand, but I just couldn't talk about it, or at least I didn't allow myself, because I stayed loyal to the passive narrative in my family of the secret around sexuality. It's something we don't talk about. So I think that's another big part in the kind of the game of shame around sexuality.
There is quite a game of shame for sure. I've watched that with a lot of clients that come to me, and just people in general. I love observing people in life, and shame is definitely one of those things that can stop us from receiving more in our lives in general, and most definitely with our sexuality and our bodies. And so, what are some things that you're aware of that can actually allow people to start to get out of that either passive or active shame?
Yeah, I think the first part that's probably the easiest and simplest, and probably accordingly one of the most powerful, is we've got to talk about sexuality. And I think that's one of the great services you give to people. You're an active voice about sexuality, and people are able to become a part of the conversation through listening. So, okay, this thing that's very rarely talked about, and hell, when it is talked about, typically in our society, it's talked about in a very dysfunctional way. Objectification, and you getting a sense of value through shame, through sex. So, your voice of talking about it, I think, models what we can adopt into our life, not only being a part of this show, but creating non-shaming conversations around sexuality with our friends, our romantic partner or partners, and I think having a curious attitude about sex, almost like anything else, but an attitude to explore places that are unfamiliar to us, to walk into the mystery of it. You know, mysteries are inherently shaming. We don't know what we're going to experience. You might be with a partner who says, let's do this. And he's like, oh, I've never tried that. But if we can give ourselves permission to be curious, I think it makes exploring the unknown of sex an okay thing, rather than just shaming that which we don't know and that which we do know about sex. And then also I would legitimately say that I've been helped, and I'm not going to play the I'm perfect card, far from it.
Wait a minute, I am.
That's right. You've got that card. There's only one of those in the
Thank God,
deck.
one of us on the planet does.
Yeah, our next conversation, I want that card.
Awesome.
But I personally have been helped a lot working with my coach, as well as another dream therapist that I work with, in exploring the parts of my sexuality and places where I learned to constrict around it and disconnect from my sexuality. Having an outside perspective has been very helpful to me to find the specific nuances in JP's life, the wounding pain that I specifically need to look at and process feelings around.
I'm totally for having people be a contribution to your healing. So I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of having conversations with professionals and friends. So for those of you out there who are like really desiring having those conversations, Googling experts if you like to do that, or, we do have a coach online with us, this guy called JP Sears. I know it's crazy. If you don't know him, you can just talk to his beautiful hair and his beautiful blue eyes, because then you might actually find that you'll get information from that can actually start to unlock you maybe, so that you can receive more and not have that shame stuff going on in your life. I do know shame's a huge thing, especially my clients will talk about that with me a lot, about things that they're ashamed of, even if it's fantasies that they have. And they're like, but I've never told anybody I want to do this. I'm like, cool. How fun is that? How much fun can you have with that? I think from a standpoint of a coach or a therapist, also having like no point of view of the person and not shaming them back. When you have somebody coming to you with vulnerable information, and if you're like, well, you're so wrong about that, that could really be devastating, right? So being massive space for people to just allow them to be able to be graceful with their healing is a real kindness that we can be for each other on the planet, for sure. So, yeah, I get that from you, which is something I've observed with you, even with your sincere videos, is there's this kindness that you be, and this space that you be that has people choose to watch you, choose to listen to you, the vulnerability that you be, the wisdom that you impart. So I get, people could easily show up and want to talk to you about, oh my God, I have this fantasy and I think I messed up because of it, and we often go right to, I must be messed up because I have this shame. And what if we're not? What if it's something completely different?
Yeah, I agree. And I if I can pretend like this is my damn show and want me to take control, I'd love to hear it in the. By the way, a little bit of time before we got to go to break. Let me really take control here. I would love to hear a little bit about what's helped you be more accepting of your sexuality in your life. if I'm allowed to ask.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's been a lot of things, but I've done a lot of different kinds of healing probably over the last 20-something years. I graduated university and I had a lot of points of view that I hated myself and I hated my body and I was really messed up. So I did everything I could do to reinforce how messed up I was. So I'd go and I would seek out therapists that would confirm for me that I was legitimately messed up. And then after actually choosing to not be so messed up, I started to find therapists that would actually allow me to be more of me. And I did have some experiences in my life, I had at some point in my life, my body had been violated. At some point in my life, my body had a lot of trauma from different things. So what I do get now is that I do have an amazing capacity with sex and with all kinds of things energetically connected to sex. So I'm aware of that. And it's taken me a lot of looking at my stuff and looking at things like shame, because I had a lot of shame coming into it when I was younger, and I had a lot of other points of view. I don't know if they were all religious, but I do know that a lot of them were kind of things that I bought from my family. You shouldn't run naked on the beach and jump in the water. That's very sexual. But I was 7 and enjoying my body, So there was a lot of that kind of stuff that had me become really kind of twist my sexual energy. So it was kind of became almost aggressive and I would call it perverted, but not really. But I was aggressive and almost angry, and then I started to shift that where it's now very different for me, where there's more of a willingness to be vulnerable with people, and that's really for me been a daily practice, waking up, choosing to be vulnerable with myself, with my body. Even for example, with you, for me that was wow, I wrote you a letter, and that was a vulnerability for me to oh, okay, am I willing to receive a rejection? And I was, and it was cool that you said yes. And I was oh my God, you said yes. So a lot of, for me, vulnerability has to do with the willingness to be rejected. Not that you're going to be, but just even being willing to be can also open up a lot and not make it a big deal.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love every drip of that. And I also love the take home, in a way, ultra summarization of vulnerability. That says a lot.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun journey that literally daily. It's okay, so if I actually choose to be vulnerable today and, take all my crap off of me and all my baggage that I could be carrying around, but if I chose not to, what would my life show up and be like? And I'm continually finding that life is way more fun when I choose that than when I'm walking around and putting my walls up to people or ignoring the world or ignoring the beauty around me. So yeah, it's been fun. It's one of my most fun things to choose.
For me, the word vulnerability implies I am open for connection. And, of course, that can be emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, and, a word that I think encapsulates all of those aspects of our being is sexually. I think sexuality at its fundamental core is about creating a connection, whether it's with a person or a source greater than ourselves, or maybe how can you separate the two is an interesting question. But I love the message of vulnerability and your realness around it's an everyday experience and everyday choice and practice. It's kind of that we can't just achieve vulnerability one day. Okay, we've reached that destination. Now I don't have to be present with my vulnerability anymore. It's every damn day we have the choice. I'll be open and vulnerable or not. And hopefully we can also forgive ourselves the days we choose or not, and also take a look at, what's got me feeling unsafe, where it's I don't deem it safe enough for me to be vulnerable.
Yeah. Sometimes we're really, really aware, right? So we could be going through this thing where we're choosing not to be vulnerable. And in fact, we might be aware that the person that we're with may be a rapist and a murderer, and perhaps just choosing to not be totally vulnerable with them is a really wise choice, right? Like, we might be really more wise than we think we are.
I agree. I think wisdom always trumps thinking. So I would, my thinking is that you're probably right. We probably are wiser than we think we are.
Yeah, because we're really sometimes really, really cute, but we always kind of don't always act as smart as we are. We're funny like that. But I could literally get rid of all the breaks today, but I understand that it's like a thing that I'm supposed to do. So I'm going to take us to break. And when we come back, we're going to continue this conversation about sex and sexuality and all things fun. And I do get there's a load of you online that would love to ask questions and would love to talk. We'll start taking some of you after the next break. So when we go to break, we're all going to be hush, hush, quiet and listen to the fabulous ads that we've got coming right up.
Many of us have created a lot of limitations around sex and what we are willing to choose. Would you be willing to explore what has already been introduced as sexual practices on this planet? What else is possible beyond what we have already seen, heard, or thought of? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual revolution? Taking the taboo out of all aspects of sex, sexuality, and copulation. By tuning into the Pleasure Zone radio show with body whisperer Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for The Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on a2zen.fm.
What if you really do change molecules by your interaction with them? What if the change you've been looking for is right before your eyes? What if the uncomfortableness that comes with difference could be fun? What if the closed-minded people of the world no longer determined our world? What if gratitude trumps judgment every time? What if your kindness healed the world? What if the earth is asking for your help? And what if you had the resources to give it? This is your invitation to step into something that Einstein, Marie Curie, Picasso, Da Vinci, Shakespeare, Aristotle all knew to be true. Hi, my name is Dane here. 13 years ago, I started to truly ask questions. Actually, I started to be the question, and everything changed for me. What if there are no dumb questions, or any question too large? What if you being you are the gift and the change this world requires? Is now the time? For more questions to create a change in your world, sign up for a free video series at beingyouclass.com. My gift to you, beingyouclass.com.
This is The Pleasure Zone with body whisperer Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, please call us in the U.S. Call 815-880-8255-TALK or Canada 613-800-8736. Or you can Skype us at a2zen.fm. You can also make the choice to ask for comment by email by sending to Milica at milicajelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Pleasure Zone. I'm your host, Milica Jelenic, and today my wickety-whack guest is JP Sears. How lucky are we to be having this conversation tonight? Sometimes I flip into accents, and it's just one of those things. So, welcome back. We are having this great conversation about sex and sexuality. If you missed the first half, it was about, shame and kind of moving through that. And I do get we have a lot of questions on here. And one of the questions was so far back in the chat that it's popped right out of my awareness, other than it was sort of to do with this conversation, sort of not. I think people are just so excited to be able to have questions with you, JP, that they don't realize. For those of you who don't know, JP just recently started a really cool live show on Facebook. I just saw that with Jator. That was great.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was really cool. And I'm sure there's going to be more of those fun shows because you can ask him. And he does live shows on Google, too, for those of you who don't know that, too, for those of you who would like to ask him questions. And he's also so magical. He does one-on-one sessions for you people who didn't know that. You can find him on Awaken with JP That's correct, right? awakenwithjp.com. I'm just taking this off the top of my head.
As far as I know, that's correct.
So far today, right? You haven't changed it in the last 24. We're good. Okay, cool. So we've got one of our questions. I know all of you guys are like really excited to hear JP do his JP character. He doesn't, I don't think. Do you have your bandana on tonight, JP?
I don't have it on. No,
okay.
It had other plans.
Okay, it's doing its own thing. It has a personality of its own, and it is traveling off somewhere. Awesome. You gotta love when your stuff has a mind of its own and does its own thing. But there's a lot of people online in the chat that are very open to connection with you, which is great. You know, I know that they're alluding to other things. And how lucky are you that you've got like women around the world that are like, wow, JP, I want to eat that man up. It's kind of
that would be lucky with a capital L as far as I'm concerned.
Pretty sweet. So I'm actually really curious about what is it like for, you know, you've had your life where you've been a coach, you've been like a teacher at a school, and I was watching an interview that you did with a fellow, and I can't remember his name right now, but it was about like marketing on YouTube, and he had encouraged you to do some Facebook stuff, and you were like, I don't know if I want to do that, and you kind of listened to him, and you got so that was a great interview, and then where was I going with that? I was going somewhere, and then I lost track, and I was like watching the video in my head, and now I'm going to be grounded again. So one of the things that I wondered about is like when you first started out, you know, you had some great viewership, in my opinion. Like you had a few thousand people watching you. Now you're like, you got several million. And what has that created? Like, do you get? I mean, I have this radio station show, and it's you know, I don't get the viewership you get, but I get some interesting letters, and I get some really interesting pictures, shall we say, almost daily through social media. So I'm wondering, does that stuff show up for you because of your popularity? Like, do you get random interesting things like love letters from women, people wanting to have your babies? Like, what's going on with that kind of stuff since you've become more well-known?
Yeah, you know, what's going on with that kind of stuff is basically, it happens. And I think, you know, while it's ego inflating, it's gratifying to my ego, but the reality as I see it, and I think this is a little bit of a grounding sanity check, is I don't think people are at all in, you know, those kind of infatuation notes. They're not infatuated with me. They're infatuated with who they think I am or who they want me to be, which I think at the heart of it is really a projection of their own self. So, you know, to me, it's important to realize like that they're not obsessed with me. As magnificent as they think I am not that. I'm me. And to me, that's important because I think if one was to try to, you know, kind of, okay, let me just jump on the treadmill of trying to engage with people, it would be incredibly shallow because in the end, they're, in my opinion, really trying to find a connection with the fantasy of who they think I am. So, yeah, to me, that's a little bit of a sanity check that's important because the last thing I want to do is lose my sense of self and start to believe that who I am is who other people think I am. You know, everybody has their opinion about who we are, and it's important that they do, and it's part of their creative process. And me having a sense of self is part of my creative process. And honestly, sometimes that's a little bit of a challenge to stay grounded in my sense of self and not let myself get you know, kind of caught up in the, you know, what might be hype or praise or you know, overt, you know, romantic interest.
For sure. So you try not to be
it's always fun to hear, that's for sure.
That's cool. Like fan mail is always fun. So you just try to not be too cocky, I guess, right?
I like your choice of words for sure.
So I also have a few questions about, and I've watched some of your videos on relationships too that I thought were some of your most sincere videos on relationships, and you had some really, I really like some of your information that you have out there. Again, I really encourage you guys, if you've only ever seen JP's stuff and you've only ever seen his comedic stuff, I really encourage you to, if it's fun for you and you like to hear some insights that he's got on other things, he has amazing insights on other stuff as well. He's really funny and he has really sincere information too. So I'd like to just encourage you guys to know there's more than just JP with the bandana on, even though that JP is really cool too. So
well,
just going to keep encouraging people to check that out.
Yeah, well, I appreciate your kind words about the sincere videos I have out too.
Yeah, I think a lot of times what, people will, like you were saying, the infatuation with a certain type of characteristic. So that is something, it's not something that just maybe shows up in your life. I know that's going to show up in lots of people's lives. You could, for example, you might have somebody that's infatuated with you, and it's maybe on more of a personal or smaller level where you don't have maybe 40 million adoring fans that are constantly pulling your energy, but you might have one person who has developed either an infatuation, an obsession, or something with you. So I really like your advice about being grounded, really knowing who you are without buying a lot of what their opinion of you is. And because we're amazing beings. We will morph into whatever people project at us because we can. And so really kind of acknowledging wait a minute, that's actually not me right now. Okay, so what if I was going to be me? What would that be like? Just really starting to explore that, and that curiosity can actually get you to be more of you as well, rather than going, oh my God, they think I'm great. That means I am great. And I'm great because they said I said this. So I'm going to say this a million times because then they're going to think I'm super awesome. It's so we'll do that, right? Because we just, somebody likes me. It becomes super significant. So, you can have relationships that are quality relationships, and at the same time, they don't have to have that kind of intensity to them that's like an obsession. So what are you aware of with that could allow people to have a relationship where there isn't maybe that neediness or you're my one and only love, like the kind of thing that the Disney kind of character stuff.
Yeah, in my opinion, the way to not get lost in infatuation in a relationship is to allow it to be there with healthy limits and boundaries. In fact, I think my opinion is infatuation is a very functional part of the beginning of a relationship. Keyword, beginning. And as you so elegantly mention about, it's kind of the fairy tale deal where, yes, the other person probably thinks we can do no wrong and we're wonderful, but it's a two-way street too in a relationship where we think this other person is just amazing and somehow we magically feel complete being with them. And in reality, I think we're getting incredibly intimate with who we want that person to be. And for that infatuation phase, we can fool ourselves into believing that who we want them to be is actually who they are. So that infatuation phase, I think, is a necessary part of creating functional attachment, not over-attachment or obsession, like you mentioned, but functional attachment. And for God's sakes, it is fun. The euphoria, all the neurotransmitter high, amazing sex. Man, I would not want to curse anybody by taking away that part of the relationship. However, everything has its shelf life. It too shall pass. I think where a relationship starts to drown is when we try to hold on to what was. If the infatuation phase expires, but we're still trying to juice it, It's not that nourishing for the relationship. And in my opinion, it just breeds resentment, where we get resentful at the other person. How come you're not who you were? You're not who I want you to be. And then we start punishing ourselves because we're not enough to make the other person into who we want them to be. And damn it, the first 3 months of the relationship, they were exactly who we wanted them to be, according to our delusional experience of them. And then same thing, how come I'm not Mr. Perfect for you? What am I doing wrong, and what's wrong with you? Why can't you accept me the way I am? So that kind of resentment and conflict starts in a relationship if we're not allowing ourselves to grieve the loss of a very beautiful temporary life form called the infatuation phase. And I think one of the reasons why the infatuation phase it has its season. The leaves are beautiful, they're green, they're lively, and then they turn brown and they fall. One of the reasons is because that gives rise to greater life, in my opinion, which is intimacy, not just infatuation. And I think intimacy, into me I see. That's when I'm seeing deeper into me based on how I experience you, my partner, and my partner has the same opportunity. And as I experience myself to a deeper degree, both those things I love about myself and those things that I'm a little bit in conflict or violent conflict about myself, it means we're also getting in touch with who the other person is. We've had to grieve the loss of who we thought they were in the infatuation phase so that we can make space for the beautiful, intimate discovery of learning more about who they really are. And I think that's a beautiful phase. It's, I think, even more beautiful, even deeper, richer, and has much more of a spiritual connection to it. And the question would be, why the hell would we ever do that if we didn't get attached to a person in the infatuation phase? So I think attachment has functionality to it. Otherwise, we just leave the person, the first sign of conflict, the first sign something got tough. And of course, I think where the growth and the discoveries and the real intimacy happens is when there is friction. The samurai sword isn't going to get sharpened if there's no friction. So thank God we're attached to each other to a degree from the infatuation phase so that we're able to stay with the conflict so that we can experience this thing called intimacy, and we can also experience, which I think also leads us to experiencing the whole that the two pieces of us, the two parts of us make when we're together. So nonetheless, at this point, I've lost sight of what the hell the question or the thought was. But, that's a little bit of my delusional opinion about infatuation and relationships that we all have experiences with.
Absolutely, yeah. I think probably I worded the question not in the way that I meant to. I think, and it was great because you completely spoke to what I was really trying to say. So thank you for reading my brain. That was very helpful. It was like I am aware that the infatuation can be a huge contribution to creating relationships. The same way like being infatuated with a business, say like you've tried out something or rather and you're like, oh my God, I love this product and I want to sell it. It's that initial infatuation that initiates you to actually choose it, to continue to choose it, to then create with it, to then maintain it, right? And I think a lot of people, like you were saying, like a lot of people do that thing with infatuation where it's like, well, the infatuation's over and maybe like that next part of the relationship, they haven't done the grieving so much. So then they're kind of like, oh, I don't know. I think I'm just going to be done because I just like the high of infatuation. What if we could actually take that energy that we get during infatuation, and it's not going to be the same necessarily. It's not going to be like you constantly have an infatuation. Like you were saying, that kind of phase dies out. But that energy is still present. So what if we could like utilize that to actually allow it? Kind of like when you're growing a plant, right? And you've got a seed. That seed, even though it's turning into a plant like a flower, that seed is still contributing to the life of the flower. So it's like, what if that energy could still contribute to the growth of the relationship? Where, say, for example, like I recently got married. about a year ago. And I still refer, and my husband's actually listening to this episode. Thank you, Mike. He hardly ever listens, by the way, so I had to do a shout out.
Hey, Mike.
So he'll be thrilled. And so it's really funny because like we could go to this place where it's like I no longer have like a desire for you because our relationship's serious now and I'm married, so that equals no sex to most people. But I do still like to refer to him as my lover, which is for me a way to carry the energy of like the infatuation through my relationship so that I can have a lover in my life, even with a ring on my finger. So so I think, it's not that it's the same, but it can be an energy that we don't completely destroy. How can we utilize it to actually create more? It would be really fun to check out. So all you crazy wild kids out there, try it out.
Amen to your flower metaphor, and the seed that grows into the flower. To me, that's like a more expansive expression of the same energy. So I agree with you wholeheartedly, sister. I think that's actually a very important part to add into this. Like, okay, infatuation's done, the fun part's over. Like, no, it can get better if you allow it.
Yeah. So how much fun have we actually been avoiding having? Because we go, infatuation's over, got to find the new infatuation, got to get the high, got to get all those hormones going again. And what if we actually could expand that by actually choosing to have more intimate connections with people, to have those deeper relationships where, walking away from them because you're not having the high, it's not maybe contributing to what you're looking for. You might be looking for something and you're totally avoiding it, is what I'm saying.
I love your question. Like, what if we could do that? What if we all have the capabilities, the power to do that? I think it's a beautiful question you pose.
Mm-hmm. So I do know, and guys, I apologize, I'm monopolizing all this time with JP and all my questions. And I will bring up a question. Okay, so there is a question that came on in the beginning of the program, and I'm going to ask it in a way that may be related to this topic more, but the question is, where is that? Or Christine McIver, if you want to come online and speak with us, that would be cool too. So the question was, what is the one thing that, quote, spiritual people say that drives you crazy?
Yeah, it's a great question. And pretty much all I have to do is listen to my vocabulary. And it's like, okay, that's where I come up with it. Things I say drive a part of me crazy. So, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is competitive consciousness. Comparing where we're at compared to other people. To me, that when it's done through a spiritual vocabulary of, I'm further in my path, or I'm at Maslow's fifth hierarchy of whatever the hell self-actualization, or, I've achieved Kundalini rising and I did Kriya Yoga for this many years and I have this credential. I'm kind of throwing up in my mouth just talking about that, what all that means to me. And I realize other people have their experience, but what my experience of those words means to me is separation, division, separating ourselves from other people through our comparisons that we justify as spiritual lingo. So in other words, becoming more separate from ourselves and other people while we believe we're being spiritual. And to me, spirituality is all about oneness, connection, unity, communion. So if we use words that are of a communion vocabulary, but the energy behind our words is that of division and separation, then I think we unfortunately fool ourselves into drinking the poison while we tell ourselves it's our medicine. So that competitive consciousness, comparison kind of thing. And hell, here I am. I catch myself. I'm doing it right now. I'm comparing myself to people who can do the competitive comparisons. So it's like I'm implying like I'm better than that, which is in fact just so goofy because that's me creating a sense of separation that like I don't like other people doing, which basically means the reason why I don't like other people doing that and why it kind of gets me and is annoying is because it annoys me that I do that within myself. So, damn it, I think I just learned something about myself.
That was so conscious of you. I think you've actually excelled my consciousness by just doing that. That was awesome.
I actually do feel a little more conscious than you. I mean, yeah.
You are. I can tell.
It's very,
I can feel
very humble
that I need
of you.
to. It's awesome because I feel like I need to bow to you now, which is I could feel that as you were speaking that you rose and I then became subservient. So that was awesome. Thank you for that. Maybe I was bowing for something else. My imagination is going wild on this show. My husband will appreciate that. He'll be like, good for you and your imagination. Awesome. I'm sure he's thinking that right now and going, oh, my wife, what the heck? So.
Yeah. And, Mike, I'll tell you, if you're not thinking that, you should be thinking that. You should be listening to what your lovely wife is telling you you should be thinking.
And thank you, JP. And awesome. And what else could we get him to do for me? I have no idea. Hey,
I like this.
JP Sears said.
It's the manipulate Mike hour for the.
That's awesome. He's so lucky. Absolutely. Yeah, and that'll actually make him more elevated spiritually too, which will also make him more sexual, which will also make him into like a sexual guru. So then I will definitely be bowing more often, naturally.
I would say naturally indeed.
That's what you do with your sexual gurus. You bow down all the time. That's what you have to do. So I'm trying to keep this as child-friendly as possible because I do think there are children listening as well. So awesome. I'm like, there's chatting going on. People are going mental in the chat room. They're wanting to, take JP on dates, take me on dates. I appreciate it all, guys. One day when I've got the time, I'll take you all on a date. It's awesome. I'll receive all of it. It's fun. So when you were talking about the separation, what are some things that you choose that will actually create communion for you?
Yeah, for me, the most important thing is to be aware of my thinking, feeling, and behaviors that create separation. So becoming aware of them and honestly doing my best to accept them, not accept them with a hidden agenda of I'm going to accept those things so they change, damn it. So yeah, I think that's actually creating more separation. But honestly, doing my best to notice my delusional thinking, feeling, behaving that creates separation. And I think if the more I and we can accept that, the more paradoxically our thinking of separation creates the catalyst for unification within. Because if we can accept the propensities we have to create separation, then the separation has just led us full circle into union. And everything that I do the ultra spiritual videos on, it's somehow either very directly or indirectly in my life, but it's in my life nonetheless. And so when I've done parody videos on meditation, eating practices, spiritual practices, I don't try to kick those practices out of my life. I want to keep them in my life because they're important to me. So, but if I can accept the components of them that, my ego attaches to them, the superiority aspects that create the division, if I can accept those, then I think it actually is a bit of a catalyst to union and oneness for me. So, I think the Zen people say it well. Contentment comes from accepting things the way they are, and I think most aptly that's applied to ourselves. Contentment, and I dare say, a sense of oneness comes from accepting ourselves the way we are. And that's not meant to be a token of passivity and indifference to ourselves of creating meaningful change that our heart guides us to do. No, it's not meant to be a cop-out, but it is also meant to not let change be a cop-out that keeps us from the intimate act of accepting ourselves. And in this case, accepting the parts of ourselves that act out an energy of separation. Because I think if we don't accept that, then we're separating ourselves from the parts of us that create a sense of separation. And I think separation times 2 is more separation. But I think separation with the addition of unification to it is something completely different.
That's an interesting way to put it, separation with unification. So I wonder, too, like separation, and you've mentioned in a different ways how it's like separation is something we create, and it is. So if we keep on creating this, what if we just choose to stop creating it? You know, like what if we could really just go, okay, look at me, I'm creating separation. Okay, so I wonder, how fun would it be to actually create communion here? And, what would your body feel like? What would would you feel more expansive as a being? Like, what would that create for you? And like, what invitation is that going to be to the rest of the world to also go, oh, wow, that energy, that's a curiosity. I'd like to have that. So what is that? Oh, that's communion. Oh, cool. I'll be part of that. So yeah. So if we actually, what if we acknowledge like where we are creating it? Because maybe it's just something that is not, is separation required? Do we require it on this planet, or is it not required? And if it's not required, can we change it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I love your curious question. Like when we identify, like, what if I stopped doing that? And some, a point of consideration, which is probably me just getting in my head into ultra theoretical land, a point of consideration is being curious, what is my why behind potentially stopping it? And I find my why can be very different at different times when I'm looking at, suspending a behavior or pattern of thinking. Sometimes my why is essentially out of rejection of self. Like, I find this part of me so unacceptable that I'm going to stop doing this. Mm-hmm. And then I think another angle is I'm going to stop doing this out of a sense of I'm accepting this part of me, and then I'm choosing to stop doing it. Or the first angle, am I rejecting this part of me, therefore I'm going to stop doing it. And I think nobody knows our answer other than us, and even the idea of us knowing our answer with a sense of certainty, that's a little bit goofy. But I think we can have it for sure. And I think it can have a sense of curiosity, and that's a beautiful thing.
So we're coming to the end of the show, which flew by like in a half a second for me. So thank you for warping time, because that's a really cool, fun thing to choose.
Anytime.
So I want to just let everybody know you've been listening to JP Sears and me on The Pleasure Zone. And for those of you who are not familiar with JP, and this is your very first intro to him, how lucky are you guys? And if you'd like to know more about him, check him out on awakenwithjp.com. You can even book private sessions with him if you like. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But I don't know what those cost. But I'm just plugging stuff that's not even real, JP. I'm just offering. I'm going to pimp you out, because that's it's kind of like my second job. So I don't know what that costs people, but I don't even know if he's offering it. That's what I'm saying. But check out his website, and you can also check him out on YouTube, Awaken with JP on YouTube. And he's also on Facebook and Instagram. If you want to get super great yoga shots, you can check out his video on how to take great yoga shots, but you can also check out his great yoga shots on Instagram. So, and if you don't know where to find any of that, it's all Awaken with JP. So I'm so grateful that you came on the show today. And for those of you looking for me, you can find me on my website at www, because that's how they start, milicajelenic.com. So JP, final 15 seconds is yours. 10.
Melissa, I love you, sister, and I appreciate the living hell out of you having me on. Your wonderful offering to the world. I think you're an absolute delight, and I appreciate the heck out of you.
Thank you so much. Have a great week, guys.
Thank you for choosing to listen to The Pleasure Zone. Milica Jelenic will return next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on a2zen.fm. We hope you'll join us. Until then, have the best week of your life by choosing to be turned on and tuned in to your body.